Hi friends, in this video we are going to have a look at WebDriverWeights, which is one of the implementations of the concept of explicit weights in Selenium. And I would be using Java as my language. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at the code. Alright, okay, so before we start reviewing the code that I've already written, let me first show you what we would be working with. Okay, so we would be again working with the Internet Heroku app, and over here we have got a dynamic loading session, right? And in this section, let's move on to example one. Okay, so we would be working with this page primarily. Okay, and what we would be doing is that I would write a script that would click on this start button, and I would wait for this loading icon to finish, or I would wait for the loading to finish, and then I would extract this particular hello world and just print it out. Okay, so looking at our process, what we need to do is we first need to, let me just refresh this page again. We first need to find this button, click on this button, then use a mechanism or use any mechanism to wait for a certain period of time so that the application finishes its loading process. And once this particular loading process is finished, we would be extracting this hello world, right? So first I would try to do this without using the Selenium weight, and actually I would try to do this without using any weight and just extract hello world after clicking on the button. And then I would be using explicit wait to wait for some time before I try and extract this. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our code. And in my code, as you can see, I'm using testng, and in my setup step I am using Bonnie Garcia's WebDriver manager to instantiate my edge driver. Then I'm just applying a page load timeout, and then I'm just maximizing the window. You will notice that this time I'm not using any implicit wait, so there is no implicit wait, so there would be no waiting as of such, right? And then I'm doing a driver.get to this particular URL that we already saw, right? And then I'm doing a driver.find element, and I'm searching for that particular start button. We can have a look at, let's refresh this once again. So let me inspect this and show you what is. So I'm searching for this particular start text, right? Yeah, and then I'm clicking on it. And after that, I'm just trying to extract the hello world text. Okay, so that I am doing by, okay, let's reach there. Okay, I am getting this hello world. Let's inspect this hello world, right? It's an h4 tag inside a div tag, and the div tag has an id of finish. So that's what I am doing. I am first locating the div tag, and from that div tag I'm actually locating the h4 tag again, finished or find elements by tag name h4, and from that h4 tag I'm extracting the text. Okay, let's run this once and see what we get as an output. All right, so my test case passed, and as you saw, we clicked on the actually Selenium clicked on the button that was there, and it turned to hello world. Let's look at our output. Do we get anything in our print statement? So we got nothing for the print statement, and that signifies that we were not actually able to extract this particular h4 tag. Now let's add in my weight over here. So I would be adding the weight before I start searching for that particular element, right? Before I start searching for that hello world element. Okay, so the syntax for introducing a WebDriver wait is pretty simple. You actually do a WebDriver wait because it is a class. You provide in the reference name, I would just say wait, and then I would do new WebDriver wait as we do, right? WebDriver wait. And this actually takes in around two arguments. First one is the driver instance, your driver instance, which I have it as driver. And the next one is a numerical value in long. So by default, that would be your seconds. So if I give over here 30, it will be like timeout in seconds. So this signifies that this particular wait instance, whenever we use it, it will wait for a maximum of 30 seconds. Right, that's a maximum. So if the condition that we are waiting for gets fulfilled before 30 seconds, it will not wait for 30 seconds, right? It will just continue ahead with its process. And how do we instruct Selenium to actually wait for some time? For that, you do wait. You use the reference variable that you have declared earlier, put a dot, and you will get until, right? So this, I'm asking Selenium to wait until something, something takes place or some activity is performed. Right now, I would be waiting until my loading icon disappears. So actually, you already have a lot of expected conditions predefined with Selenium. To access that, you just do capital E X expected conditions, plural, right? This is the class. Okay, and you do dot. Again, you will have a lot of options available over here, and these options would be almost sufficient to satisfy all your needs that you would come across during sorry that you would come across during your automation activities. Okay, and if some more is required, or if you need a particular functionality that is custom and that is not already present, you can always create that, right? We will look into that later on, but for now I would be using the predefined ones. And right now I am looking at invisibility off, right? Because I want my particular loading sec icon, or rather particular loading progress bar, to disappear. I want to wait till it disappears. Okay, and now I would provide in the web element for which I want to test the invisibility. Okay, so I will go back to my page and refresh again. Let's keep an inspection on this. Let's also notice what changes happens. Okay, I get a new loading right over here. Okay, so you can see style display none. Okay, now I just need to locate this, and this is ID. Okay, I guess ID, so it should be unique. Let's try this, because IDs are generally unique. So I would do driver dot find element by dot ID. Let's paste in the ID that way. Okay, right? So let's recap once again what we did. We instantiated a wait class, or rather we instantiated an object of the WebDriverWait class, and that wait class took in the driver instance as its argument, and plus a long argument that tells the wait instance as to how much it should wait for, the maximum time it should wait for. And then I asked it to wait until a certain condition is fulfilled, and that condition is that this particular element should be invisible. It should no longer be visible. Okay, and after that it will try and find the particular finish div icon and extract the text from its h4 tag. Okay, now let's run this and see whether this worked or not. I can see IntelliJ says my one test case passed. Now let's look at, okay. So here I can see hello world was printed. So we can conclude that we were successfully able to wait for this much for the loading icon to disappear. Okay. This is one way of applying wait, or this is rather the way of utilizing explicit wait. Okay. Okay, so that is all there is to the basics of implementing WebDriverWait. And before we sign off, I would like you to have a look at WebDriverWait's implementation, right? So click on Control, press Control and click on WebDriverWait. And over here, if you look at its implementation, it says that it's a specialization of FluentWait that uses WebDriver instance. Okay, so WebDriverWait is actually an extension of FluentWait class. We'll look at FluentWait in the future, but for now, the basics of FluentWait, as I discussed in the previous video, is that it provides you with certain features, or rather it provides you with certain liberties, as you can choose to ignore exceptions, quite a few lot of exceptions that you want, and you can provide in a polling mechanism as to what interval you want to check for your particular expected condition, right, so on and so forth. So WebDriverWait also uses all those mechanisms, but it has got a default value to everything, which some of which we can override, some we cannot. So one thing that you would notice over here is that wait will ignore the instance of not found exceptions. So with Fluent Wait, we can actually add in what kind of exceptions we want to ignore. For WebDriverWait, by default, it ignores not found exceptions. We can choose to add other exceptions that we want to ignore using the ignoring class. Right, for that you would have to go over to wait, put a dot ig ignoring, and then you can actually select which exception class you want to ignore. So say you want to ignore no such element exception, and while selecting, just make sure that you are using the org.openqa selenium one and not java.utils exceptions. Okay, so select this and put a dot class. So now my particular wait will search for this condition, or rather it would wait until this particular condition is fulfilled, and also it would ignore no such element exception. That is, if while waiting for this particular condition, if a no such element exception is thrown, it would not exit, right? And and in addition to no such element exception, it would also wait for not found exception, right? This is by default, it will always wait for it. Okay, right. Yeah, and I would encourage you to have a look into its implementation. It will give you a better understanding of the WebDriverWait class, right? And yeah, that was all for this particular video. Thanks for watching, and if you have some comments, please put them down in the comment section, or if you have some suggestions for future videos, please do tell me. Thanks, and hope you have a great day.